Welcome to part number 5 of the Glitch Hop Dubstep bassline tutorial power course. This is bassline number 4, and I'm going to jump right in here, create a new MIDI track, and we'll call this bass number 4. Now, remember before in bass number 3 we talked about the harmonic series briefly, the fundamental, and how bringing in different levels of the harmonics or the overtones of the fundamental note create the particular timbre of sound, the style of sound, and we did it all the way till we got a saw wave. Now I'm going to use that concept again today, or this particular part. So I've loaded up an operator as usual. Here's my sine wave. Go over to the oscillator mode, and again we can add in all the harmonics up here. Let's get that spectrum up again so we can have a look. It's good fun. Just give you an example. So bring these harmonics down. Just bring in the fundamental. I'm just going to go to 16 mode. It's a bit easier for me to click. Fundamental. First harmonic, second, third, fourth, up until we get kind of square waves. Excellent. Now, we're going to bring those down. Now, if you listen to each one of these at once, fundamental, first harmonic, second, third, fifth, sixth. What we can actually do here is if we make that just a sine wave, if we use the coarse value on the operator setting, which we haven't come across yet, we dabbled on the fine tuning. So if I apply it and move the fine tuning up, so we can kind of pitch it up and down. See the representation up here, the visual representation. If we go into coarse mode, however, it's going to move this oscillator up the series half harmonic. So okay, now this is kind of peculiar because most synthesizers will go up in octaves. For example, if I load up the analog, which is another one of Ableton's synthesizers, just excuse me while I bring the sustain up. If I do the coarse value, or in this case the octave, make sure we pick a sine wave. Let's move up the octave. See, that's going up in the octaves, but the operator goes up the series of harmonics for us, which is very interesting. So the cool thing about this is if we go over to our algorithms area, remember in the first one we discussed we can change the way that all of these oscillators work together. You know, this one will feed them all down to each other in a chain, and so this one will modulate this one, and this one will modulate this one. But if we go back to the original, the most simplest one, this one, where all of the oscillators are just getting a little output. You can see the little output right there. They're all going out. They're all doing this. They're different things, and then they're getting mixed together. So what that means is we can bring up the level of, say, the second oscillator. Again, we've got a sine wave and a sine wave. They're completely the same values, so we're just going to get double the amplitude, double the volume. But if we bring the coarse up by 1, there's the first harmonic. You can see it there. It's exactly the same as if we were going to do it over here with the oscillator. See, but we're doing it here instead. But we can go up a bit more. Let's bring up the third one. Let's make that the third harmonic. Let's make this the fourth and bring it up. It's interesting. So with this bassline, what we can do is we can use this first one, this fundamental. We can make this something chunky, let's say a square wave. And let's just bring the levels down here for a start. So here's our square wave. Now let's bring the harmonics up, but let's add some sine wave harmonics and see what happens. Not much, because we've already got the harmonics coming through. Well, they're even ones anyway. But what we can do here is we can put these harmonics up some interesting places. Let's go 8 to see what happens. So you see, it's kind of adding in. You can see where the bumps are here. It's kind of giving it an interesting high presence. Let's take this back to a sine wave. This is way too high. So see, I'm just kind of riding between the levels and a harmonic that sounds good, trying to get some kind of dissonant sound. Let's just roll with that. So we're actually creating quite a lot of highs. You can see here, again, here's the fundamental, and here's the 3 harmonics that we've added in with these 3 other oscillators. Okay, let's just close down that spectrum. I'm happy with that for a second. Now, let's turn on the filter. We'll keep it as a low pass, as usual, because we're going to do some kind of wobbling here. Okay, we can move that frequency around. Again, you can see in the spectrum, if I bring it down, nothing, bring it up. You can see it cycle through those. Now we can turn on the LFO within the operator. We haven't really discussed this yet, but the operator has an LFO. You'll find most synthesizers will have at least one LFO. And with this LFO, if I turn it on, by default, this middle area turns on and lights up. By default, you see how it says Dest A. This is destination A. This is where is this LFO getting sent? Where is this low frequency oscillator? Where is this pulsation that we're generating? What is this going to manipulate on this destination A? And you see it's got 5 major options. It's got A, B, C, and D, which is A, B, C, and D, and it's going to change the pitch of these. So it's gonna by default these are turned on. So if we play this now, look at that spectrum. Let's bring the amount up. This is how drastic it is. It's quite hypnotic, really, isn't it? If we change the rate. That's all good, but I'm going to take it off A, B, C, and D. We're going to keep away from changing the pitch on this one. Let's put it on the filter. Let's turn filter on. So now if we bring the amount up, and let's bring the amount right up, and the rate up. I'm pretty happy with that so far. Let's go into this. You see how we've got our shape here as before. We could do a saw up. We could do a saw down. Let's keep it on sine. This one here is where we can change it from low, which means this will go at the lower value. So we've got what, 0 to 127. Well, that's just a kind of like a range for us. But if we go into high, that's really fast. Kind of start creating your own little sounds with that. But we're going to stick to sync. Now remember, sync will turn this into a fraction, which is a fraction of our BPM up here. So we've got 16th notes. Awesome. Right, now I'm going to right click this and group it. That's all good. It's quite a soft sound, but we've got something happening. So I've grouped that, and let's call this we'll call this harm for the harmonics. Now let's create another operator, drag it down here just as before, change this to a saw wave. Let's put the LFO on the saw wave, make sure we put the filter on, do the same to the LFO, take it off A, B, C, and D, and turn it onto the filter. So again, almost doing exactly the same thing. We're just going to set this to sync and leave this on 12 as well. But let's change the filter to a high pass, a high 12 decibel. Now if we go into the filter area, you'll see that this is up like this. Let's bring the resonance up. Don't like that. Let's go for a band instead, see what happens here. And let's go into the macro mode over here. Let's map the rate to this knob. Let's go into our other chain and let's map the rate to this knob as well. So these are the same parameter, just in a different synth. So this knob is going to be easy for us to move around. So now we should get. I don't like that high pass or that band pass. Let's go back to a low pass. Remember how we used the spread before on that last bassline? Let's do that again on this operator. We should call this. We'll call this saw. Let's change the spread up. I'm going to bring the amount up on the LFO on the saw wave. Oh, let's put that spectrum down again. So we have in our timeline. So let's put in a MIDI clip here, Command Shift M. Good old Tom, always doing the wrong pitch. And duplicate that across, and let's put that up to here. Great, now we can go into the LFO sync, and we can change the LFO sync with our pen tool on the timeline. Actually, let's just change that for a sec. Let's not do it on the timeline. This is called automation. So if I draw on points here and drag this around like so, this is called automation. Let's not do it that way. Let's get a bit more familiar with modulation, because it's quite a handy thing to know. So if I was to I'm going to bring this value up right to the top. So this knob up here right to the top. So this line is right at the top, the maximum value. And I'm going to double click on my actual clip. And you'll see how we've been editing the notes. We've had this this area enabled, which is called note modes, and we get this little yellow arrow over on the right hand side to say we're editing notes mode. If we click over to envelopes mode, or if you don't have envelopes mode up, you have to click on this little E here. If I open up envelopes mode, you'll see we can't go and edit the notes, but we have lines just like we did on the automation. Now this is because we can modulate parameters that are within anything that's within our racks or our synths or our effects down here. We can actually modulate those inside of the clip. So for example, I can go to the drop down menu here. I could say, right, what particular thing do I want to play with? Well, I could go, right, I want to play with the operator. Here's all the parameters of the operator. We've got our LFOs, we've got our pitch, we've got our oscillators. We're not going to use that. We're going to go instrument rack, because remember, I've already assigned the things that I want to manipulate or modulate to that first macro. So I can actually just pick, go into this clip, pick the instrument rack, and pick the first macro, and it's named it LFO sync for us. The other way I can do that, let's say if I have it set on something else, is I can just simply touch the knob, touch it with my mouse, go in there, and it's gone. Okay, well, he obviously wants to change this. Now, the thing you need to remember about modulation is that it is usually, most of the time, relative to where the automation is, or to where the actual parameter is set. For example, if I click on this line and drag it, you see how it's giving us a percentage up in the top right, top left-hand corner. So this line is going to, wherever this is, it is a percentage of what the parameter is currently set at. So let's set this at 50%, or roughly around there, 49 will do. Let's go back to our base 4, and let's look at our macro. You see how the macro is at 100%. You see how the knob is completely open, but because I have the modulation set on 50%, you see how the orange part only goes up to 50%. If I was, and because it's on 50%, it's relative. So if I was to drag this down to halfway, you'll notice that the modulation is on 50%, so it's going to be 50% of 50%, which is 25%, which is where that little dot is. So this is it can be quite confusing, but it becomes incredibly handy, because if I go in here now and let's modulate, let's just draw on some lines here. I'm just going to make the grid a lot bigger because it's easier to work with. Actually, let's just quickly select this clip and this clip. Remember, if we go edit and consolidate, it'll combine the two together into one giant clip for us. That's going to make it easier to do some modulation down here. So again, back to my pencil tool. Almost. It's going to make that grid a lot bigger, it's easier. Awesome. So that's how modulation works. And the cool thing about this is there's no messy automation up in this top area. And that means if I loop this together and drag it across, it's going to continue looping the modulation as well. So let's just drag this back. And let's play this from the start.
Excellent. Now, just really quickly, I'm just going to go back to my harmonic chain, which has these the fundamental and the 3 harmonics going up. I'm just bring the level of this 9 up. What we can do is if we go into the envelope mode of this oscillator, this envelope is controlling the volume of this oscillator. So you can see how it starts at its maximum value and it just stays at its maximum value. What we could do is we could have this, so if we set this up as high as it can go and bring the attack out, as we hold the note, this higher harmonic is going to come in. In fact, we could do that for all of them. That could be an interesting thing. We could have them all coming in at a different a different speed. So the first one is going to come in really fast, the second one's going to come in just after it, and the third one will come in a bit later. I mean, we could change this harmonic to sort. Yeah, that's sounding a lot better, isn't it? What if we do the... Oh, I'll probably overkill it here. Let's try this on a square. That sounds awful. I did overkill it. Excellent. So I'm happy with that particular bassline for bassline number 4. And we'll call this one Harm. That sounds good. It's a bit loud though. Awesome. So that was bassline number 4, part number 5. Cheers, TomCosm.com.